beat the brave. Keeping up with the time that's forever changing. We're on the map that's designed as a destination. That's how we do. That's how we do. Let's go. That's how we do. That's how we do.
Whatever you want. Sorry.
Good afternoon and happy Friday, everyone. I think it's a very happy Friday because we get to start off our day with a very exciting topic, how influencers are changing the fashion landscape. The topic of influencers is something that I think we either talk about, think about, see in our lives so very regularly, probably multiple times a day. And the people on this stage are people who we feel very, very close to. And we're going to explore further how they are changing this industry, how that affects us as media, as designers, as brands. The conversation will be led by the wonderful Sujata Asamal, contributing style editor for the Khadij Times. Sujata.
I think fashion is one industry that really embraces the new. But there's been one new phenomenon which has kind of disrupted our industry, and that, of course, is the whole rise of digital. Fashion was an exclusive club once upon a time. It was just for the few elite, but thanks to social media... Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. But thanks to social media, it's kind of opened up. And now the influencer is the gatekeeper more than the magazine fashion editor. Print has had to adapt, and we've even seen many magazines have to close of recent, even in this region. Influencers have changed the fashion landscape. Mediums such as Instagram and Snapchat are fast becoming the main mode of communication for this industry. And brands like D&G have even had influencers walk the ramp for them. And we have two of the people who have walked the ramp for Dolce & Gabbana with us today. And we also have one of probably this city's most well-known media professionals, Alia Fawad. She has over 25 years experience with ITP as a publisher. She's worked with magazines like Grazia and Harper's Bazaar. And now she has transitioned into ITP Live. And she looks after a very interesting company that does influencer marketing. It's a new division. And at ITP Live, they actually managed to break a Guinness World Book of Record. They broke the record for the selfie taken with the largest selfie stick, correct?
Oh, wow.
Correct?
Yeah.
Correct. Right next to me, I have Lana. Lana has always loved fashion. She studied business, but then she chose to intern with fashion magazines, having graduated. She started her own portal from Beirut,
Yes.
and she told us about everything that was chic in that portal. Sorry, I've lost the page.
It's okay.
Yeah, so she told us about everything that was chic, and now that blog does a lot of collaborations. Lana shares her adventures all the time. I don't know if you've ever followed her Insta stories, but we know that like this morning she went to the gym, she had a coffee, so we really know everything that's going in her life, and she's really, really good on all platforms, be it Tumblr, Snapchat, she's got them all at the tip of her hand. Ahmed started his career in traditional. We worked with magazines. And then, again ahead of the curve, he went on to launch his own online magazine dedicated to menswear. Today, there is no stylist, both in this region and internationally, that does not include his name on the best dressed. So I'm going to start with the word influencer. What does the word influencer mean?
Should I describe? First of all, I have to say that I started as a writer. So for me, it wasn't a goal to become an influencer, since the word back then wasn't really used as such when I started 7 years ago. I think that an influencer a few years ago was someone who was able to influence and inspire people through anything they would be doing. But nowadays, it's of course strongly linked to social media. We were very used to influencers in the fashion world and the lifestyle and the beauty world, but we forget that there are also other fields where people are also online and on social media influencing and making a difference as well, whether in a good way or in a negative way. And I think that an influencer also has like an ethical responsibility, since social media now reaches out to all ages and all audiences, and some boundaries are sometimes broken. So I think that there is also sort of an ethical responsibility to influencers out there.
And to you, Ahmed?
I believe influencers are not only the people that are on social media. So as Lana said, basically influencers are everyone can be an influencer. It doesn't mean that if you're on social media, if you have a certain number of followers on your social media platform, then you're an influencer. There's people that influence the people around them without having public social media accounts. So for me, the word influencer is a really a wide world, basically, and it includes a lot of things. It's not only for fashion influencers or social media influencers. So it's a really complete different world that it includes everyone who is not even only on social media.
Alia, you've worked on both sides. So for you, is influencer someone on social media? I mean, how would you explain it?
Well, the word influencer has a stigma attached to it, so I'm not going to use that word. If in context of what we are talking about today, we're talking about digital content creators. Influencers are everyone, as Ahmad just said. It could be a person, it could be the brand, it could be an individual on whatever the platform may be. So it depends on what we are talking about. If you are influencing this group of people, you're an influencer. That's exactly what it is. So it depends on who your audience is and who you're trying to influence, even if it's the 5 people that you're trying to influence to change their decision or to influence them and inspire them in different ways. So for me, it's a different word.
But you sort of were in print and have moved on to digital. Is that now the natural evolution? Is that one of the reasons you decided to move? And tell us what ITP Live is doing.
So ITP Live is a division of ITP Media Group. While ITP Media Group is not just print publishers, we are about producing and promoting content. Doesn't matter which platform it exists. So ITP Live came about because influencer marketing, digital content creators, the new media, what we call new media right now, we're taking it's an evolving space right now. And ITP Live came about to manage and bring structure to that space. And that's basically our vision, and hopefully we are doing well about that.
So what made you decide to move?
Again, it's about content. As I said, content does not just fit in print. It all depends where the content is being consumed. Today, the content is being consumed on print, on digital, on Facebook, YouTube. There's so many distribution platforms. And that's where all the audiences and readers are. So it's the new media that was challenging. It was interesting. It's evolving as we speak. That was the reason why ITP Live, I joined ITP Live.
And so tell me, how do you create content for brands? Do you work together with brands? How are these campaigns that you do created?
So there are different ways, of course, to create content, and the trends online also change. So when 6 years ago it was mostly about blogs, the main content was writing a review or posting an article up on that blog, and then with the launch of Instagram, content became much more visual. So we put all of our effort into creating the right photo. For a while, photos were very simple. It was like, let's say, selfies and mirror selfies, and then photos became much more professional, where bloggers started to hire photographers, to create content, or teaming up with brands on professional photo shoots that would be for 360 campaigns, as in campaigns that go in print and online. And I think that these are the most successful ones because they're linking the best of the two worlds. And now, for example, in the evolution of social media and the content that's doing the best. We have like videos that are growing really strong, and people are a lot now into short videos, into stop motions, into content where we see the influencer in a much more natural way, moving around, maybe speaking. For the region, talking in Arabic, for example, in a video is extremely important, tutorials. So we're also moving now more to videos. When we team up with brands have like a specific campaign coming up or a product that they want to market or they want to push for or they want to put the highlight on. The goal at the end of the day is not just sales. It starts with awareness. So awareness around the product, awareness about the new collection, making people relate to the product, making it more personal. This is why we're given a lot of freedom when it comes to style an item or to how we use it. When we're sent beauty products by a brand, we rarely have like specific guidelines on how to use them, so we can pick our own way of reviewing them.
And for you, I mean, your life very much is under, on the social media. How do you strike that work-life balance?
Honestly, I mean, among the bloggers that are on the scene, I'm the person who shares less her private life, as in you will rarely see like photos of my family or if I put pictures with my husband, it's like a couple of times a year. But what I try to put more out there, it's everything related to my lifestyle, because I've done sort of a lifestyle change and I moved into like, let's say, a healthier lifestyle, a more active lifestyle. And it's something I like to share with people because it really had a good impact on my health and on how I deal with many things. So I like to try out different things, like in fitness, for example, or in nutrition, let's say, in addition to fashion, and share these things with people because people want real feedback about these things and they want to know like real things that can be done.
So talking about real feedback, do you disclose when something is paid, a post is paid? How important is transparency?
There is right now like no kind of law in the region where you have to hashtag ad, but now, I mean, in Europe and in the States, it's already...
You have to hashtag
you have to hashtag
partnership or
ad when it's a paid campaign.
But here there isn't, so then...
No, not
basically,
yet.
Instagram just launched
Not
a new option where you can mention that the picture is a partnership with a specific brand, but you're not obliged to. And I think people are kind of smart enough to figure out if the picture is sponsored or it's in a collaboration with a brand or not.
I mean, it shows when it's like a fully branded shoot or when it's a content that is like all about like a specific product or a collection. People, they know, but I guess now the consumer, his main goal is not anymore to figure out whether the content is sponsored or not, because they understood that influencing or blogging is kind of a job now, especially when you stick to it. I mean, I registered La Mar de Nana as a company, so for me, I take it as my daily job and I take it very seriously. So the first thing people look at is not if it's a paid content, they look at the way it's done and what they can learn from that. And I think it's very important to first look at how it can inspire you. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. It's not about if it's how much it's paid for or if it's sponsored.
And has this changed print's approach, Alia? I mean, because in print it was at one time church and state. Has this sort of the way digital looks at content changed the way print now looks at content?
Well, I'll give you the comparison here. In print, you have to declare, there's advertising pages, there's editorial content, and then there is collaborative content, which is called advertorial or promotion, which has to be flagged as advertorial or promotion, because it's not the editor's view. I think because it's new media, the whole social media is new media, it will find its feet. And I think, I mean, obviously we know FTC in the US has issued letters to 21 celebrities, influencers, to declare their endorsements and the compensation they've received. It is, again, it's an evolving space. I think that's maybe for tax reasons, but either way, I think it's fair for the audience or the readers to know which one is paid and which one is your own content, no matter what the platform. Similarly, as you would in print, even an Instagram content, it should really be there, not just for tax purposes, but just to distinguish between your content and the paid collaboration.
And since you work with so many influencers, do you think the audience now there has become very savvy about when something looks like it's just completely
course.
forced and they just.
I mean, ultimately, we have to remember the trick lies with the audience. They can leave, be where they think they want to be. So whether it's somebody buying a magazine or somebody actually following an influencer, it's the same thing. The onus does lie with them. So if they do feel that an influencer or a magazine, or no matter whatever media you can take, is not being truthful, they are going to, make their opinions felt, or they're going to go away. So that's obviously.
So the one disadvantage you guys do have is that people can comment on you guys very easily. So how do you deal?
I think it's an advantage, not a disadvantage.
But how do you deal with negative comments? Because there are just people out there who just want to be negative for the sake of it.
I think people would be negative regardless, but then you attract this negativity. So, if someone is negative, they're going to be negative regardless.
That's what people want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then sometimes influencers themselves are a bit provocative, or they bring this negative comments to themselves because they think that it's good to have 2 views maybe, but you can't control it for sure. Like some people prefer to monitor their comments and their social media on every second to delete any negative comment and stuff, but I don't believe in that. So if someone has an opinion, they would like to share it, I would love to hear their opinion. I would love to reply back and tell them.
Personally, I don't delete negative comments, but I think the main issue is kind of the energy that comes out of the comment, because there's a way of giving a comment and giving constructive feedback. It's very helpful. يعني نحن we don't see what we're doing. At the end of the day, we're in this bubble, and we have people seeing it from outside, and it's very constructive to see or to hear comments that can actually help us do something better. I've had a lot of followers sending me private messages, and they would say, you haven't been doing this for a while. You used to do this more, and I take it into consideration, and I think it's very important. But this is a nice way of saying things, and in all the fields, this is how it should be. But then you cannot control really.
So when Ritu called me and asked me to moderate this one, I mentioned in my office that I'm doing the talk on influencers. And of course, 1 or 2 older editors rolled their eyes at me and went, influencers. So how do you take this kind of comment when you get it?
But you said older, so I don't really expect them to immediately be in the,
But I say generally, in the newspaper office, the kind of was influencers.
I wouldn't say that, as we said when we started to talk, and Alia also said, everyone can influence, and in all the fields there are people influencing, whether they're on social media or not. Then when you define your role and you know exactly what you're doing, these are kind of comments that honestly I don't really react to, because I went from being a writer to having my own platform on which I sell curated collaborations. And I just collaborated with Fendi, so I don't really look at just being an influencer. I'm very proud to be influencing people through my lifestyle and through what I do, and it stops there, I don't think it defines me as a person.
Alia, why do you think there is this sort of, in the whole print world?
I'm not sure, but I understand what you're saying, but I think it's interesting because that space has been taken over by individuals, whereas journalists, traditional journalists, actually were behind the brand. And you've got individuals who are in front of their own content. They hold the content authority. So I think there may be that friction because of that, but yeah, there shouldn't be. Really.
No, it's so nice if we could join the 2 worlds, because this is what's happening, and it's way stronger. I started my blog after interning at L'Officiel du Levant and at A magazine, because initially I'm a writer, this is what I love doing, but I saw 7 years ago that the trends was blogging, on an international level, and I wanted my writing to be out there, because I was 19 and I had to continue my study, and there was no way I could work at a magazine. So maybe for a lot of us, it was like a way out and a way to start something. So I think on the contrary, it's something beautiful. If you can make it something positive, then why not?
I agree, absolutely.
Both of you have managed to turn it into sort of successful businesses.
Yeah.
With your online magazine, and you with your e-commerce platform. Is that what influencers, is that the end goal for most influencers, you think?
I don't know if it's like most of the influencers are looking into creating something out of their platform. I can talk about myself, but then I started from creating something to going onto social media. So I started my online platform after working in print industry for 3 years, and then I felt that there's a niche, and I felt that is a gap that needs to be filled in terms of men's fashion in the region, especially when it comes to online. So that's how I started the online magazine. And back then there was no influencers, there was no Instagram, there was nothing about this world, which came later on. And I started my work as an influencer out of being an editor of my online magazine. So I based it on something concrete, and that's what influencers technically should be working on, either starting from something concrete or doing something concrete out of their social media platforms where people can understand their purpose.
And you were saying you just registered your company
Yeah,
as
about a
proper
year ago,
business,
and I launched an e-shop on which I sell like curated collaboration pieces, where 70% of the pieces created are with regional designers. So it's very interesting because we kind of empower each other in terms of audiences. What I like on my platform is to have affordable pieces from these designers in limited edition quantities. And I'm actually excited to soon be doing an event in Dubai. It was supposed to happen this season, but it's going to be next season. It's nice because you get to touch into another side of your audience, and you get to give them something concrete, as Ahmed was just saying. And I think that at the end of the day, it's a smarter way of monetizing your content, and at the same time continuing to inspire people, without having this, like these products. I don't always push my products. I separate it. I created a page for my e-shop, and there's a page which is on my account, and the page for my e-shop constantly reminds people of the products created and where they can buy them and everything. So I kind of separated a bit the two worlds, and I think it's important so that the business can be separated from my profile, since I still work with brands. And I think it's an interesting venture because it's hard, it's not easy, because e-shop in the region is still something very new, and there are challenges, but we find ways around, like cash on delivery options and options like these.
So you were talking about that you work with local designers, and obviously we're at Fashion Forward Dubai.
Yes.
So how important is it for digital to embrace homegrown brands, and what do you think the role has been between the rise of digital and homegrown fashion?
I think most influencers have been supporting
local
emerging brands.
Yeah. Maybe female more than male, because we don't have a lot of male designers or fashion designers in the region. But for female, they have a lot of options of local talents that they can support, and I believe that they are supporting.
We can do so many things, I mean, from my side, I've never ever been paid or asked to be paid to represent a regional designer, because just the way I'm struggling to make it, they are also, and each one of us in his own way, so it's more like a win-win situation. We give each other a push through our audiences, and I think it's very interesting. And a lot of agencies that are representing these emerging designers are helping in that, by facilitating things like easy things, like always sending us the lookbooks, keeping us updated, and helping these designers be organized, drop off the samples, pick them up, making sure we also have access to these designers during international events like fashion weeks, which are also important times to wear our regional designers.
And for you at ITP Live, how important is homegrown?
Well, I would say on behalf of ITP Publications, I mean, if you look at Fashion Forward and Grazia, they've had a very long relationship, and it has to be relevant, and you really can't do without supporting the local talent, whether it's supporting the influencers in the region or it is the designers in the region. You've got to be able to work together to create that content which the audiences want. Again, I wanted to touch on one more thing, is that ITP Live is that in a unique position, because we do have the brands, traditional media, as well as new media, all coming together. So it's that multimedia mix. So for us, giving local designers that local talent, I wouldn't just restrict it to designers, that room to breathe and to have the exposure is very essential.
I want to ask both of you about your experience for walking for Dolce & Gabbana, because that must have been something quite exciting. And
It was.
how did that happen? And
Ahmed did
tell
it
us a little
first.
bit about that show.
Mine was January 2017. It was fall-winter show, and it was a very short notice kind of request from the brand. I met with the brand when they came here to Dubai for an event that they had in Dubai. I met the designers and I met their team. Then they got in touch with me like weeks before Fashion Week, and like a week or less. And then they said that they're creating a concept which is going to be real people basically walking their runway. The experience was interesting for sure. It was an amazing exposure walking an international brand. I think as well it was interesting because there was a presence from the Middle East there, and then people were interested to know more because there's a lot of people that walk the show from different countries, from different backgrounds, so they were interested to know more. Where am I coming from? How is it here? And they're interested to know for sure what is Dubai, because everyone loves Dubai basically. So it was an amazing experience. And after the show, I had really good feedback and support from local media or regional media, and TV or newspapers and magazines, and I really found that it's interesting how people in the regions like really support and proud of someone that does something on a global basis.
It was a very humbling experience first. I mean, I did the show in March during Women's Fashion Week, and it was also like 10 days before, and they're like, the email was like, would you be interested to walk the show? I'm like, I didn't get the email, let me reread. Would you be interested to walk the show? I'm like, are they serious? And then immediately I called Ahmed because I knew he did it, and he's like, okay, Lana, just say yes, and then I'll give you the details later on. If someone would have told me this one day would happen, like brands would have people walk the show, and you know why it was interesting? Because, I mean, at least for the women's show, there were people from all ages, all sizes, from all across the world, and I think this was really interesting. And when we did the fittings, they really wanted us to wear, you know, something that we felt comfortable in. And I remember, like, Domenico wanted me to wear like a very tight dress, very open, like a lot of accessories, and I was like, you know what? I'm representing the Middle East. Can I have a suit? And he was opening my shirt and putting a bra, and I'm like, no. So they listened to what, you know, we really wanted, and it was a fun experience because we built it together. We had so many looks to choose from, and we kind of created the show together. And the nice part about representing the Middle East, and I think it's something amazing, you know, at the end of the day, we're 22 countries. So the impact and the support is multiplied, you know, by so many numbers. And there was such a positive feedback. Honestly, it was amazing. The media was extremely, extremely, extremely supportive, especially print.
Yeah.
Like it was the time I got the most support from print, and I think it was I was very thankful for that.
So it really sounds amazing, your life. And of course, there's so many young girls and young boys out there who want to go out and be one of you two. And they probably think it's all about just putting up a selfie, putting up your outfit in the day, saying on Snapchat, I loved this show. What has it taken? What has been the reason of your success? It can't be that easy.
Do you want to start? I have a list.
No, it's not easy at all. It's not fun. People see what they see, like in print magazine, they see a photo shoot and they think it's like, bam, it's done. And Alia would know, like, what you see is there's a lot of backstage work for influencers in terms of content creating, like, and Lana mentioned that creating content for female influencers is more, like, it's easier than creating for a male influencer, because for women there's like beauty brands and stuff like that they can work with men. We have like very limited.
Much more material.
And yeah, so they have much more material to work, and for men it's hard. It needs a lot of work and effort, and especially if you have something else you're working on, or like you have a proper business that you're handling. It's not just like sitting at home taking pictures and posting them and that's it. So it's not something that someone should look up to. Like, I want to be an Instagram famous. You know, it's not something right at all.
No, people should want to like build a platform to use it and do something else.
So Lana had her website, or her portal, then it was a concrete start. I had the website, and from there, I started getting recognized by brands or fashion brands, and I started working with them. But then, any young boy or girl who want to start something, they have to start it from something concrete. So let's start a website, a portal, a blog, something they're interested in, and they want to share something to influence people around them. So they can't come from nothing.
You know, it's more like in any job or anything you do, when you really believe in, when you work hard and when you really want to make it, there are struggles that you're going to go through, and to each job its own, you know, things. Personally, the hardest part is always like having to travel. So physically, it's draining. You know, like my office is in Beirut. Most brands are based in Dubai. I have a lot of work in Europe. My husband is based in Africa.
Oh, wow.
Figure out where I live. I don't know where I live. So for example, this is for me a challenge. Like it's a physical challenge. Like I have to be present a bit everywhere, and I have to be able to manage this thing. So it could be physically draining, but I have a very strong like mental way of viewing things. This is for me a struggle, you know, everything related to my health. So from time to time I really get tired. Like after Fashion Week I was sick for 10 days. Okay, maybe for some people these are details and this is the price to pay, but no, I don't agree. Like you have to give out so much. And when, for example, when it comes to Fashion Week, people think it's just like all about going to the show, taking a picture, and then you're done. There is so much work to do. Personally, we post like a daily review on the blog right after the show, and then I have to go to the hotel and I edit a vlog that also comes online on Instagram on the same day. So there is content creation that is happening, and at the same time, you have to be out there during Fashion Week. Like there are all of these editors and all of these people that come every year, and there are many events you have to be present at. You have to encourage designers that also do presentations. It's not just about the show. There's like much more happening than that. And after Fashion Week, there's all the follow-up, like sending all of the content you created to the brands. It really depends on what you see yourself doing later. There are people who just want to go to the show and post a picture of their outfit and it ends there. And I don't judge that, because at the end of the day, it's a decision, and you decide where you want to stand and what you want to do. Now with my e-shop, I will celebrate a year in December. When I go to Fashion Week, like for the past 2 times, I actually look for new brands and designers that I can collaborate with for my platform. So I also have extra meetings that have nothing to do with just like attending shows.
You work with so many digital influencers. What do you believe makes someone successful? What are the things that make you a successful digital influencer?
It's their brand and the positioning and their content. At the end of the day, its content is king. If an individual or a brand is producing that content which amazes, entertains, educates, informs, that's what makes them really good influencers, digital content creators, and that's what makes them successful.
But how does it work? Because it is so personality driven. So when you work at a magazine or a newspaper, it is about the brand. Since it's so personality driven, what is the long-term goal? To turn the person into a brand?
Well, from my point of view, its positioning is obviously very important. I mean, the DNA, the positioning defines that content creator, or that space that content creator is trying to establish herself or himself in, similar to how a magazine brand is either focusing on mothers or teenagers or high fashion or high street fashion. It's literally the same ethos that is applied to individuals and to brands.
There are strategic decisions.
Yeah, it's like you have to have a proper identity, or else people wouldn't be following you. They follow you for a certain reason. They're interested in your style. They can relate to your style, to what you wear, to the brands you work with. So it's all about the identity.
And if one day like Ahmed wears something that is not something people are used to him doing or seeing, and it really like falls out of the context or out of his identity, people will not believe it. So you have really, your affiliations have to make sense. First of all, so that you can deliver genuine content, so that you feel natural about creating content about that brand. And second of all, because people follow you because you have the specific style they relate to. And it's a bit like when, you know, every month you buy, let's say 2 or 3 titles that you really like to read, but one of them is your favorite, but you're gonna buy like the other one to also take a look at it, okay? So when you follow influencers, you might follow one that has more of a hippie style, chic look, and another one that's edgier, another one that's more classic. Maybe you will have a favorite, but all of them will impact you or inspire you in different ways because they work with different brands and they do it differently.
True.
And even if brands work with 2, 3 influencers, everyone creates his content in a different way. I mean, a Dior shoot is different in Harper's than in Vogue than in any other publication. And I think it's the same. People should take it that way. Like, competition is something really
Okay, so
important.
before I open it out, I'm going to ask one question, which I would ask if I was in the audience, and I'm going to ask it to Alia. As a print journalist, what is your advice today to print journalists? Are our days numbered?
Not at all, not at all. I think what people forget, it's not one or the other. I think we
a
have to remember
360.
it's a combination. That's what makes it amazing, because you've got the traditional media, which has its place and following. And also must remember that traditional media is not just print. The brands exist on social media as well as digital, and from YouTube series to Instagram. So it's not just limited to just a printed copy. So it's an amazing mix. It's a great time, and we just need to just look at the various distribution channels that we have and speak to our audience based on the channels that we are actually getting our content out. That's it.
Even for us as influencers, we look for this recognition. We want print
Of course.
features.
It's a combination.
We want that. We look. I mean, I'm very much of a print person, so I always want this kind of a feature. I want this positioning. So I think it's together. It's a 360 approach that is being the most successful for any kind of brand campaign.
As you mentioned at the beginning, like, strong magazines will always stay there, and then the magazines that weren't able to make it properly, they're gonna disappear, and they already disappeared. So basically, the strong media is gonna stay there, and maybe 90% of the strong titles have presence digitally on social media. They have their websites, and they're supporting.
And they involve influencers for their
exactly, so-
campaign. They do print shoots, and this print shoot includes like a mini digital campaign and
And
a
a video, and it goes on
and a
their
behind the
website,
scene.
yeah.
And I think this is extremely successful because you reach out to all the audiences.
Great. So I'm going to open it up now. Does anyone out there have questions?
Yes, they're coming with the microphone right behind you.
If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, it's open. Because I'm leaving, I'm happy to be the first. Thank you so much, everyone. Sujata, thank you. And my question is for Alia. It's about my journey in social media. They call me influencer. I don't like to call myself influencer. I agree there is a stigma to it, but this is not the reason. I think it's a jargon that companies use just to make it easy for them to call us. My name is Dalal Rashid. I'm more on hotels, restaurants, traveling. And I built my social media 2014. It's been going very smooth and fun, loved it. So 2014, 15, 16, this year ITB came to picture, and then I have to think a lot and a lot and a lot. And when they called me, I was like, I don't want to go. It's one of those Devils Wear Prada scenes. But I went, and it was really fun meeting. I enjoyed my time, very professional. I started to think this is ITB. They have very, very powerful hand on media generally. I will learn so much. I saw the opportunity, yet I haven't made a decision. It's been 3-4 months. This is why I'm here. I would like to ask Alia. I think there is a huge opportunity between social media influencers and traditional media. I saw it from day one. Even though I'm not a writer like Lana, I'm not a media person. I finished accounting degree, but I've always been drawn to magazines. Traditional media, print, pictures, photo. I grew up reading Bollywood, Hollywood magazines, and I can't give it up. I can't, even if social media becomes number 1 and 2 and 5. I think there is always a room to do something exciting. Social media is pushing traditional media to become more creative, and this is why I want to be part of it. The only issue, which I would like you to correct me here, is those technical situations that we as influencers can handle, but some agencies or some companies ITB has to handle once we work with them. And this is my question: how flexible a company like ITB can be to cater for each influencer? the contract, the tasks that required from both sides, or it's really very corporate and very stiff?
I think let's meet on Sunday.
That's gonna happen regardless.
And I'll take you through the process again. To answer your question, ITP Media Group publishes over 80 titles, 80 brands, catering to every segment from Construction Week. I didn't even know there was a dentist magazine, so you name it, and we've covered the sector. Just that way, we publish such a variety of topics. In the same way, we represent a variety of influencers. Yes, fashion, beauty, food, real estate, business. So therefore, we are capable of taking care of a whole lot more.
Okay, thank you. I'm coming on Sunday, promise.
There's someone at the front here who has a question.
Hi.
Hi.
Is this on? My name is Eileen. I just launched a blog called Eileen Edit about culture, fashion, and beauty. My question is, bringing it back to the title, how influencers are changing the landscape. And this is for all of you up there. The problem that I see coming up when you look at, obviously overseas and how they've been doing it for a while, is the legality of the things that we do online. And we always have to be careful about that here in the Middle East or in our region. I see the advantage of joining something like ITP Live, but I'm hoping that you guys would know that already, because I'm creating content in a totally different area, but I don't want to do things illegally, like competitions online, or if I get paid in product for beauty, for example, what kind of protections, or are you guys involved in any way with the government or with whoever the authority is to help protect people like us? Because we're starting from scratch, that's, I think most influencers start from I'm really interested, I'm passionate about X, and I want to do the right thing, but I don't want to get in trouble, but I don't have money to hire a lawyer and set everything up.
That's a risky.
I'll let Lana answer this, and then I will address this
No, it's
question.
just there is no main legal protection, to be very, very honest. But now what we do when we work with brands is that, anyways, brand most of the time suggests a contract, where all the deliverables are listed, the brands that you cannot mention are listed, to protect ourselves from any mistake, and to also make sure, let's say, the payment is made, let's say, everything is mentioned, like the timings for the payments, if it's not a payment, what would be, the remuneration, if we're going to be reposted, like all of the details are now mentioned in contracts. And even if some brands still proceed without contracts, en tout cas from my end, I've learned, because of a specific experience, to request, even if it's like a very basic draft that is signed from both sides, and we have like several copies and everything. But now, after all these years, the first thing that I did was like contacting a lawyer that I can consult from time to time, especially when it's very long contracts. And it's very helpful, because when you get approached by a brand that might be a competition, you already know if it's a yes or a no. For example, when I signed with Nike as an ambassador, I have a list of like 3 pages of brands, that I cannot mention or tag, but at least for me it's clear, and I fully accepted to do this, or I just don't.
So usually it comes from the brand itself. The brand would, even if smaller, if a brand is approaching you to work with you, or you're working with an influencer, you have to draft
Yeah, you should
just
request.
a contract, and then just knows you're do's
Even
and
if it's
don'ts.
basic, you should request a written agreement. It doesn't have to be like a contract, But yeah. No, if they send you as we say,
gift
gifts, there is no contract. You have no obligations to post about it, and this is like a big mistake that brands do, because maybe they're gonna decide to send me products, and I don't like any of them, and I don't want to review any of them because I won't be genuine. So I just choose not to, and then the brands either understands, and maybe asks me more what I would want to review, or they don't. But at the end of the day, this is what we were talking about. The content should be genuine, so there should be no obligation if they send you freebies.
Taking on from there, you're absolutely right. That questions like these were the reason why we launched ITP Live, because it was not just about having an agency. What we realized is a lack of information, structure in this region about what you can't and you can do. And influencer marketing is an evolving space, as we understand. So ITP Live has the information tool through the website, itpliveme.com. Questions like these come forward every day, so we do have information on what is actually acceptable, what is not, how to go about it. Additionally, we also do workshops through the year and events and conferences. We've got a conference happening on 12th November, and we've done a workshop on how to be the next social media star, where we bring in the platforms, we bring in the brands, we bring in just to educate the up and coming content creators who want to start creating content on different platforms. It is, of course, it's open to public. So if you log on to itpliveme.com, you will be able to find out when the next one's happening.
Hello, everyone. My question is for Lana. I just want to know, when you had started long back, what were the challenges you had faced that time as a new influencer? And like, I'm a makeup artist and an aspiring fashion blogger. So I would like you to suggest what are the tips, we can follow to become like you, famous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. To be very honest, when you start anything in life, you barely know exactly what you were doing. And at that time, I was lucky because I was one of the first. So let's say the market was like a bit empty. I could like try out things and then figure out what was working for me. But the hardest part was that all of these things now we're talking about, like contract and things that define things, brands having budgets for digital, because this changed only recently. All of these things didn't exist. So the main challenge was how to price my post. Why should I price my post? Should I do it by post? Should it be like a package deal? All of these things were very complicated. And one of the hardest things was also the fact that, there was because 5-6 years ago, Dubai was still not what it is when it comes to a fashion hub. Neither was Beirut. So I had to figure out where was the platform and where could I meet with brands to know what can be done. How should brands notice me? This is also another challenge. Because that it's very difficult to decide if you are going to be approaching the brands with your profile, okay, or are you just like going to wait for them to come up to you with projects? At that time, what I just did, to be very honest, is that I focused on my writing. So I used to also, anytime I buy something or I discover something, I used to write about it. I used to share about it. Back then, there was no Instagram, so my main tools were Facebook and Twitter and the blog itself. So it was a challenge in the sense that personal style wasn't something that was very developed, so I wouldn't anyways take pictures of myself. It was really a completely different sphere. And the challenge was following up with all of these changes. Oh, okay, now there's Instagram. I have to start taking pictures of myself. Okay, I was taking selfie mirrors. Okay, now I need to figure out who's going to take my photos. And if I want to shoot clothes, where should I get these clothes from? How can I contact designers? So I have to say it wasn't easy because there was no structure and there was no way to abide by. There were no indirect rules. Now everything is more or less set in place, and you can easily, I'm not going to say it's easy to do it. I'm just saying that there are more or less clear rules of how it's being done, of the content that's being out there. Like, that people love photos and they are loving videos, so you kind of know what's the trend online. There are much more research. There's much more research, and there's a lot of advice being given and seminars and workshops that can lead your way. And I think this makes things at least clearer, if not easier. But I always say that the main challenge is to just like hold on, because there are times where you do very well and other times where you don't do that well. And also always stay true to your content and to your identity, because at the end of the day, As we were just saying, there are many people launching their blogs and launching their platforms, but why would I follow you? You always should ask yourself this question: what is my strength? So for example, with time, I developed very good speaking skills and talking skills. And I was like, okay, I never use them, I never do videos, I never speak in Arabic, I should do that. So I started doing vlogs, and for me, now it's one of the things that people like the most, for example. So I think you should always look at your strength and how you could use it. That's the most difficult part, like really defining, you know, I'm gonna be doing this and tackling that. Thank you.
Got a couple of questions here at the front.
Hi. I want to ask you, how do you basically stay true to yourself when all these brands are basically sponsoring you, and how do you like not turn into a walking advertisement? Like, how are people still seeing you as you and not just, oh, this is just because the brand is paying them to do that?
Like what you see on influencers' Instagram on like daily basis is not, like you can tell in a way or another that this picture is a sponsored picture by a brand, or this one is a real content created by the influencer himself, or it's a collaboration with a brand. So definitely it depends from an influencer to another and the way they do it, but like influencers try to, or myself, I try to do as much content as I can to mix in my social media. Then you see pictures that are in collaborations with brands, you can tell that it looks like a proper advertisement or partnership with a brand. And then the others are from my daily life. You can see it on my Snapchat or Insta story, and then you can see it on my Instagram, and that reflects what you're seeing is a real, genuine content creator.
There's also the fact that now most of the brands give us freedom to style the pieces the way we want. So this is something genuine, you know, when they just give you the pieces and you can borrow pieces and wear them by mixing them with a pair of jeans from your closet, with your favorite shoes, because people are not that into the total look anymore. They want to see your perception of things. And when I style a coat, I definitely don't style it the way another blogger or another do it. And this is how content stays more or less real. There's also something else, I mean, that I'm sure you all know that luxury brands don't pay. I mean, I hope you know that fashion luxury brands don't pay, so I don't see where is the branded content here. There's no branded content when it comes to high fashion brands. They ask for like a print or a webzine to actually produce the shoot, but we are just there as not actors, but I'm gonna say like influencers that are gonna put pieces together and take part of the story. So I think it stays quite natural. It's just that this brand actually organized all of this, you know, for us to have this content. So this is when it comes. And then, you know, there's the way the caption is written, the way things are said that make a difference. I don't like being imposed captions personally, like when some beauty brands and some lifestyle brands like asked us to write things in a specific way. I tell them, okay, no, I understand, and no, I have to mention your Instagram handle and I have to portray this message, but can I use my words? Because this is the way I write and this is not the way I write. So this is also important if you're an influencer or a blogger to always impose your style, even if it comes to how you write your caption, which is a detail, but people will immediately know if it's you who wrote it or not. So these are kind of details that make a difference. I don't know if we replied to your question.
Yeah. Abi.
Hello. So my question is both for the influencers and for the media professional. Do you see longevity in blogging? Because anybody can become a blogger tomorrow. I mean, it's a nice thing that the blogging world has kind of democratized, you know, fashion and lifestyle and whatever it might be. But the blogging world is becoming so saturated in the influencer world, the content creator world. So do you see longevity in this profession? Like, do you see yourselves doing this now for the rest of your life?
This is why I launched my e-shop, because I think I should update the way I do things and I should move on to the next step using my audience or inspiring my audience through a new step. And for me, it was the logic way to collaborate with brands on bringing to the world new pieces, and maybe one day have my own brand. So I'm not saying like clothing brand, but have my own, project that is projected out of my experience in blogging. But social media is here to stay.
But this is why we said you have to create something concrete out of your social media. You see it on a global level. You see international bloggers or influencers using their platforms to create their own business, to create something more concrete, because what if Instagram shut down tomorrow? What if all these social media channels won't work anymore? So you have to have something strong and that you can base your life on technically, because what if these things disappear?
I think my answer is dependent on how you're actually going to consume news and information. So if you are going to continue sort of checking your Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube, you are going to find bloggers, content creators on those platforms. So it is what the audience is actually consuming, and therefore you've got the people who are creating. So literally, it will evolve. Maybe tomorrow there'll be 2 more platforms there. If it's not Vine, if it's not Instagram, it's something else. But our consumption of content on our mobile is going to stay, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or something else. That's is going to stay, definitely, yeah.
Do we have time for a couple more questions? One more question.
Hi, Tala, I'm a communication strategist. Building on this, so we see the algorithms of these social media pages are really shifting and they're changing. And you feel like they're kind of killing out organic and people really need to pay to be heard. With that in mind, and this goes to Alia really, what do you think the power of influencers plus brands on their platforms is going to be in the future? Do you think it's still going to exist, or are influencers more going to move towards the brand's platforms and be used there? Because we are consuming media a lot. Our mobile time is really high, but we're seeing the content that is being pushed to us versus seeing what's organically being produced. And sometimes that kills the little guys and really allows the bigger people who have a lot of followers to withstand their time and their space. But the other newbies, maybe they don't have that same opportunity. So
You're
how
right.
can we navigate that?
You're absolutely right. The competition is fierce, obviously. Every content creator is looking at different ways to sort of stay ahead. Short form video is becoming a very popular medium for brands to the first 3 seconds, the first 5 seconds, they're so important, whether you're watching it on YouTube or Instagram. And I think people are going to try and use different creativity ideas to make sure that they are ahead and they beat the algorithms. Now, even from algorithms' point of view, the platforms want you to create more video content so that you stay on and watch that content, because it makes you stay there for a lot longer than an image, for example. So that's just going to be the interesting evolution. Absolutely, yeah.
So video.
Okay, yes. So more videos, yes.
Yes.
I think we've sort of run out of time, but I think they're all going to stay back for a few minutes. So if you have a couple of questions you want to ask them, please feel free to come up and ask them. Thank you very much. Thank all 3 of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You guys were amazing. You guys were absolutely amazing. Thank you. We need a picture of all of us together.